Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me give you a weekly update on the events of military conflict and Russian aggression against Ukraine between June 5th and June 11th. Russian proxies continued to actively violate ceasefire regime, both with direct and indirect fire at Ukrainian armed forces positions. The peak of the enemy military activity was registered on Tuesday, June 6th, when the militants opened fire 85 times. Such an increase was associated with intensification of enemy hostilities at the Bakhmut Road area, which is in the Luhansk sector. The lowest number of enemy shellings, namely 45, was recorded on June 8th. Compared to 1 week earlier, last week Russian proxies attacked Ukrainian positions 34% more often. This estimate is based on an increase in the daily number of attacks. We're talking between 45 and 68. Additionally, last week the enemy more than doubled the amount of prohibited weapons use compared to the week before, from 13 to 28 daily enemy attacks with weapons prohibited by Minsk Accords. At the same time, the average daily amount of shells fired by the militants almost tripled, from 132 to 387. Now to the overall military situation in the front line. Luhansk sector. Last week, the area of major hostilities were Trohizbenka, Krymske, Novotoshkivske area on the front line, which goes along the Bakhmut Road area. On Monday, June 5th, Russia-supported occupational forces started to escalate the situation by delivering more intense mortar and artillery fire at positions of Ukrainian armed forces. On June 6th, Russia equipped militants 10 times and initiated complex fire against the area. The culminating point of enemy hostilities actions was registered on June 7th, when Russian proxies discharged nearly 800 rounds of mortar and artillery at the defense lines of the aforementioned Krymske and Novotoshkivske, which received fierce enemy mortar, artillery, and tank fire. That day, the intensity of enemy fire in the area of the Bakhmut Road surpassed that of Avdiivka escalation in January, February this year. On June 8th and 9th, the enemy reduced intensity of its mortar and artillery fire, but on June 10th, the Russian proxies launched a powerful artillery fire against Krymske, having discharged 50 rounds in just 25 minutes. The daily number of ceasefire violations in the Luhansk sector ranged between 8 and 32. Now we are coming to Donetsk sector. Throughout the week, the militants delivered small arms fire and medium-intensity mortar fire against Ukrainian armed forces positions along the whole front line of the sector. Occasionally, Russian proxies initiated mortar barrages and tank fire. As per Ukrainian military intelligence reports, while delivering artillery fire at Avdiivka area, militants used Russian modern counter-battery radar. Its name is Zoopark-1. On June 5th, militants launched a powerful mortar attack at Pisky. On June 7th, enemy mortar operators actively targeted Ukrainian positions in Luhansk and Avdiivka areas. On June 10th and 11th, Russian-trained militants fired nearly 85 and 65 mortar rounds at Shakhta-Butivka position and Avdiivka positions, respectively. A daily number of ceasefire violations in the Donetsk sector ranged between 17 and 28. Mariupol sector. The hostilities took place at Krasnogorivka, Novotroitsky, and Chermalyk, Shirokino sections of the front line. On June 5th and 7th, Russian proxies opened fire with multiple launch rocket system Grad at Bogdanivka and Chermalyk, respectively. On June 8th, enemy opened fire with 122 mm artillery at Sartana rear area. The enemy artillery shells landed in the residential sector, having damaged private homes, buildings of border guard station, local agricultural enterprise, gas transportation infrastructure, cars, and various equipment. 8 border guards were wounded in that incident. The daily number of ceasefire violations in the Mariupol sector ranged between 18 and 42. Over the week, Ukrainian troops registered 27 episodes of hostile drones conducting aerial reconnaissance in the ATO area. Active hostilities at the Bakhmut Road area in the Luhansk sector last week caused increase of enemy drones use frequency in that particular area. As a consequence, almost half of all UAVs flights recorded in the ATO area last week was registered in the Luhansk sector. As Ukraine's military intelligence reports, Moscow continues to generously support military assistance to its proxies in the occupied territories of eastern Ukraine. Last week, 10 cargo train cars and 12 trucks with ammunition of total weight of more than 360 tons arrived in Ilovaisk and Luhansk respectively. Additionally, 2,040 tons of fuel was delivered via the railway to Rovenki, Luhansk sector. As intelligence reports, the overall number of enemy casualties is 22 killed and 60 wounded over the week. Last week, 9 Ukrainian soldiers were killed in action. 49 Ukrainian servicemen were wounded in action, including the above-mentioned 8 border guards wounded and as a result of enemy shelling of Sartana on June 8th. Our hearts go out to the families, our hearts go out to the families and friends of the fallen Ukrainian heroes. People living in the frontline areas continue suffering from enemy attacks. Thus, 4 civilians, namely 1 man, 2 women, and a teenager, were injured as a result of enemy mortar shellings in the conflict area. These incidents took place in Kamenka, Donetsk sector, and Mariinka, Mariupol sector. Last week, 8 non-residential buildings were destroyed during enemy shellings. They are located in the frontline area of Donetsk airport. Additionally, 16 private homes were damaged by direct hits of shells fired by Russian proxies in the war zone. 10 of those houses are located in Pavlopil, Mariupol sector. Other residences affected by the enemy shellings are located in Tryokhizbenka village, Luhansk sector, Zaitseve, Kamenka, Avdiivka, Donetsk sector, and Mariinka, Mariupol sector. Last week, Russian proxies damaged local gas pipeline sections located near Krymske, Luhansk sector. They also damaged the gas pipelines near Novoluhansk and Avdiivka, Donetsk sector, and Sartana, Mariupol sector, with indirect fire. 2 of these breakdowns were fixed. However, the one near Avdiivka and another near Sartana are located in dangerous areas and under constant enemy fire. Therefore, Ukrainian engineers cannot fix the pipelines in a timely manner. As a result, more than 13,000 people are temporarily cut off from gas supply. Additionally, as a result of hostile attacks in the frontline towns and villages in the Donetsk and Mariupol sectors, wide-scale blackouts took place. The Ukrainian government continues to put forth its maximum efforts to repair the damages, most of which have already been fixed. Also, during the fighting at the contact line, water pumping stations at Pivdenno-Donbasky water pipeline took some serious damage. This pipeline supplies water to more than 330,000 people. The repair of this strategic infrastructure would be possible only in case of reaching a stable long-term truce conditions according to paragraph 1 of Minsk II agreement. Ukrainian authorities arranged for access and safe passage of 44 trucks loaded with humanitarian aid for civilians living in the occupied territories of eastern Ukraine. More than 1,100 tons of medicine, hygiene products, medical equipment, construction materials, food, and other goods were provided by the International Committee of the Red Cross, Embassy of Switzerland in Ukraine, and a charitable fund. That'll be all for today. Thank you very much.